Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, and today we have with us another special guest, and he goes by the name of Sam. Yes, he does have one of the coolest names in the business, but this is Sam Conaway. He is the president of U.S. Cardiology Sales at Boston Scientific. You know, I think when you just hear that title, automatically you know this is going to be someone that you can learn a lot from. But what I want to highlight here is Sam's journey is actually quite unique. He's experienced quite a few things in his career that is not common for someone in his position. And also, if you're listening to this episode, whether you're trying to break in, whether you already are a medical sales professional or you're leading the way, you're going to learn something today that you probably haven't heard before. So, as always, we do our best to bring you guests that are changing the way in medtech technology. They're pioneering trails. They're doing things with new innovation. And I really do hope you enjoy this interview. Hey, Sam, how are we doing today?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. So, Sam, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Thanks, man. I want to make it brief because I don't want anybody to get bored. But my name is Sam Conaway, and I am the president of cardiology for Boston Scientific. I also lead our Close the Gap effort, which is our strategy around healthcare inequities for people of color.
Excellent. So, president at Boston Scientific, I think that's definitely what's sticking in people's minds right now. I'm going to take it back to the beginning, back to your college days. For you, was it in college and you were thinking, one day I'm going to be the president of Boston Scientific, or president within Boston Scientific, or was it you just had a completely different pathway? Take us back to your senior year.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to my senior year in high school, which was probably one of the most challenging periods of my life in that I was a baseball player. And unfortunately, I threw too many curveballs and knuckleballs, not listening to my father. And I tore my rotator cuff. And unfortunately, back in those days, these were, the early 80s. I'm not going to reveal my age, early 80s, really early 80s, like 82. There was different ways of dealing with that. And unfortunately, I didn't get the proper, care that I needed to take care of that. And so I ended up not getting a scholarship to play baseball. That's where I thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to be a baseball player. I also played shortstop. And found myself literally kind of wandering around, not knowing what I was going to do in terms of going to college, et cetera. And I grew up in Baltimore, man, a tough place in Baltimore around the Park Heights area, but had great parents, great family. We ended up moving out to the suburbs, and that's where I really excelled as a baseball player. But that didn't happen for me. And so I ended up in the laundry of the Washington Hospital Center, taking laundry from a laundry chute to a sorting box. Everyone in there, they were ex-convicts. Really, not, it was not what I had in mind, but that's where I ended up.
How did you find that position? Why did you want that position, I guess? And what turned you on to working in the hospital?
Well, it was just like one of my buddies. His dad was the director of linen services. And both of us were kind of struggling on what we were going to do after high school. So we just went to work for him. And this was in Washington, D.C., and I lived in Baltimore. So it would take us an hour to get to work every day. We commuted. It was like 6 of us in a car commuting into Washington, D.C., working in the laundry. And it was a very interesting experience. And it led to why I am doing what I am today. And I'd love to share that story with you.
We cannot wait to hear it. So, okay. So you're in the laundry at this hospital. Take us through college. Take us to senior year in college. What was going on? What was the plan coming out?
So I can't take you to senior year of college without telling you what happened in between that, because my story is not as linear as that.
Let's hear
So
it.
working in the laundry, and the laundry services actually delivered scrubs and lab coats up to the cardiac catheterization laboratory where they did all of these procedures on the heart. And so I would take them up there, and one of the technicians named Emmanuel Angelo said, "Hey, what is a nice kid like you doing working in the laundry?" And said, "You should come up and be a orderly for us in the cardiac cath lab." So I went up and I became an orderly in the cardiac cath lab, in the heart station, worked with a wonderful human being named Harold Hanna, who's no longer with us. And they said, "Hey, listen, you're a little bit young." I was 18 years old. They said, if you want to do this kind of work, we have a school here called the Cardiovascular Technology School that was in conjunction with the School of Nursing. And if you do well in this role as an orderly, we'll get you into that school. And so by 19, I actually got into that school at the Washington Hospital Center, learning how to be a cardiovascular technologist. And basically, you were assisting the physicians in all of these cardiac procedures, which at that time was really blowing up because we were going from surgery, cutting someone's chest open to do bypass surgery, to angioplasty and all these new techniques. And that's just a minimally invasive technique where you go through the groin. It was just revolutionizing.
Wow.
And so I was a cardiovascular technologist doing that, and got an opportunity to then go to school, but I went to school at night at the American University. And they had a program that was connected with the Washington Hospital Center. So I went to school at night at American, ended up getting my 2-year degree there, and then actually going to school at night and on the weekends at the University of Phoenix, believe it or not. And I got my degree much later in life. I was already a director of sales by the time I got my degree.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's. Okay.
So there's something in between that
Yeah,
too.
there was a lot in between actually. So
Yeah.
let's go. So basically, while you were in college, you were going to this trade school. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to trade school. You're in college. So when you graduated college, what was there an opportunity that you kind of understood you wanted to get into?
So I wanted to get into medical sales. And so I got a chance to be in medical sales before I graduated from college. I actually got a chance to get into medical sales after I had been a cardiovascular technologist for like 3 years.
Okay.
And so my first job was with Mallinckrodt Medical. They gave me a shot, and they were starting a new division focused on catheters in the cardiac suite. And that's where I got my shot. And it was really interesting. They needed someone with a lot of knowledge of the cardiac cath lab because, again, this was a new technology. And I got a chance to become a clinical specialist and work in with physicians rolling out this new technology. And it was a hell of an experience. More importantly, it gave me that knowledge to really become a salesperson, because I was interacting with people for the first time at that level, asking them to do something for me and learning what that skill set looks like, particularly in the medical device space, which is complex, as you know.
So a couple questions. We're gonna tackle it all here. So first question, did you have any role models? So now I find it interesting because someone that wants to be in your position, let's say someone that's in college, says, one day I want to do what he's doing. You pioneered, you blazed a trail. They can literally look at a roadmap and say, okay, if there's a better way to do it, maybe, but at least I have this in front of me. This is how he did it, and I can kind of follow this track. For you at that time, was there somebody, was it just simply, I'm interested, I love what I'm seeing here, I got the opportunity, I want to jump into it? Or was there someone maybe in your ear that was kind of saying, what, I recommend you look into this? How were you, where was the guidance? Was there any guidance, I guess is a better question.
Yeah. I mean, everything about me is non-traditional, right? I mean, I'm not that guy who grew up, with a bunch of people in their family and went to college. I got an opportunity to go to college after I pretty much established that I wanted to be in the cardiovascular space, quite frankly. Going to that technical school was really my gateway into the medical device business. And I will tell you, there's many ways to get into different spaces or into different markets or different opportunities. The thing I'm going to leave everybody with is work ethic, passion, and the ability to do something I teach a lot of my employees is something called entrepreneurial learning. And entrepreneurial learning is taking your ownership of your own learning journey, your educational journey, and don't sit back and wait for people to give it to you. And also that includes, grabbing some mentors along the way. And I had a guy by the name of Leroy Simon, who was in the medical device space when I got into it. He was already at Mallinckrodt, one of the oldest and probably successful African-American salespeople, started at Park Davis back in the day. And he gave me a lot of mentorship to help me along the way to learn the ins and outs of this space. But he taught me one thing: hit your numbers, entrepreneurial learning, and no excuses. Get the job done. And that's how I live my life, really.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So that brings up the next point. Because you're taking ownership of your life, of your progress, of your direction, what you want to do. But like you just said, you were, and this is back in the 80s. I mean, gosh,
in
the 80s, right? And you're an African-American professional trying to make it happen. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about what that experience was like. Did you notice things that were more difficult or easier? Or, just give us your experience.
Yeah. So, back in the 80s, and again, I had a lot of technical knowledge, so I had some credibility when I went into a lot of these accounts. And there was not a lot of people that looked like me that were doing this. And actually, that was an advantage for me, quite frankly, because I was memorable. And people just didn't, the only African-American medical device sales rep going into the cardiac cath lab in the high-tech arena. So it was quite of an advantage for me back in the day. I didn't realize it back then, sure, but I know today that a lot of the relationships that I have that are 20, 30, 40 years old even, people just remembered who I was. I think that anything that you do in life, you have to figure out how to be the best. And you know that you're not going to get any slack if you're an African American. So I did a lot of study, made sure that I was technically competent. And when I work with my physicians, if they ask me a question, I knew technically how to make sure that they understood A, what I was talking about, and B, that it would work for patient care, and C, that they were successful during the procedure that I was involved with them. The beautiful thing about medical sales, and the most rewarding thing about medical sales, you are a part of the team. Okay, the physicians rely on you. You have to be clinically competent. You have to know your stuff. So I would say that the thing that made me memorable is that I was buttoned up clinically and knew how to help them get through tough cases for their patients.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. One of the things, now that really is necessary for anyone trying to get into the industry is to be memorable. There's so many, medical sales has become such a desired and attractive thing. Mm-hmm. Whether people really know what they're getting into or not, it's on the outside, it's become such a desirable and attractive thing that being memorable is critical for anyone that's trying to get an opportunity. So that's wonderful to hear. Okay, so let's step in. So Mallinckrodt, and then what was the next position?
Yeah, so Mallinckrodt was a great role. And actually, I kept my hand into the cardiac cath lab because I wasn't sure I was going to make it. So I had my, credentials to work in a cath lab, so I would take call and stuff like that. And during that time, there was a lot of innovation and this new technology called Devices for Vascular Intervention, DVI. They came up with a way to basically go into the heart and the peripheral with a device, and they actually cut the plaque out of the vessel, this very slick device. And a guy by the name of John Simpson created that device. And he was in the lab one day, and he said, listen, I'm starting this company. You seem like a great guy. You know your stuff. People rely on you here. I would love for you to come work with my company. And so I got a chance to interview for that job. And that job ended up being probably the best thing that ever could have happened to me. And I'll give you the scenario because it's quite funny. I remember going home telling my father that I had just, I'm thinking about leaving Mallinckrodt. And he goes, they gave you a company credit card. You have a company car. You make, $80,000 a year. You're black. What are you doing? Are you crazy? You can't leave Mallinckrodt. And I said, no, Dad, this guy's, he said, we're going to make more money and this thing. And he said, don't do it. So I ended up turning the job down.
Wow.
and
Okay.
not going to the training, not showing up for the training.
Okay.
And then the CEO of the company called me and said, "No, you got to come. This is going to be fantastic." This led to an amazing thing. DVI ended up being acquired by Eli Lilly, and they acquired ACS, DVI, CPI, and Origin Med Centers. All four of those companies ended up becoming the baddest, most innovative companies. And during the divestiture of Eli Lilly, they formed Guidant. And if you're listening on here, you know that Guidant was one of the best medical device companies in the space. And I happened to be there right when it started. And it was a blessing and a huge opportunity.
Wow. Okay. So then what was the career progression through Guided?
Yeah. So once I got to Guidant, did, the best possible I could do, won all the awards, Rookie of the Year, Territory Manager of the Year, spent a lot of time working with our training department, became a trainer, field trainer, made sure that I was absolutely competent there. Then became a regional manager, took on leading a team, and making sure that I understood how to lead people. Did a lot of entrepreneurial learning, reading, accessing my mentors, and then something happened. We actually had a situation where the company wanted to combine two of the businesses, and I was a regional manager at the time, and there was a guy that with more experience. So I was a part of a RIF, reduction in force. And I had no idea what that meant back then. All I know, I was doing really well, and how could they want to get rid of me? But the way that they did it was they reduced that particular force, and then they were beefing up another part of the business in cardiac rhythm management with pacemakers and defibrillators and stuff like that. I knew nothing about those. I hadn't really trained on that side of the business. And so I went over there blind, actually moved my family to Richmond, Virginia.
Wow.
I had two boys at the time. And we went down there, and I learned the business and did it all over again. Sales rep of the year, rookie of the year,
Wow.
regional manager of the
I got
year.
a humbling experience.
Uh, and so that was fantastic. And then got a chance to lead at the director level. And then I took on HR. And one of the things that I loved about Guidant was they always wanted their leaders to have different experiences, whether it's in marketing, sales, operations, HR. So I actually became vice president of HR at the time, and did a lot of work there, a lot of good stuff, and then got back into sales. But we can further the journey.
So wait a minute. So that's something I actually didn't know. You have
Yes.
stint in HR. How long were you in that position?
Yeah, I was in the position about only about 6 months.
Okay. It
And
was
the
like a
reason
rotation.
being is that the vice president of sales for the vascular divisions left the company. And, I was next up. I was the guy who, had done it all the right things, delivered the results, learned how to lead people, lead from the front, I call it, built a big, what I call, colony of people that wanted to follow me. I got the opportunity to lead at the vice president sales level, which, was a tough thing to do. We'll call this the year 2000. I was very, very excited about that. Again, moved my family to California, and took on that responsibility.
Where in California?
San Jose.
Hey, that's my stomping grounds. That's I spent 10 years in San Jose. Okay, so wow, that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
what did that role teach you, director of HR? What did you learn in that role that you could say kind of stuck with you throughout the rest of your career?
Yeah. First of all, when you take a job inside the corporation, everyone has to do it in my mind to become a leader, because the sausage making behind the scenes and what's happening at the corporate level is so different than you think it's happening when you're at the field level. When you're at field level, you want everything yesterday. You're invincible. You're bringing the money in for the company. You feel like they owe you something.
Right.
But when you work inside the organization, you realize there's a lot of things that require checks and balances, a lot of things that require you to make right decisions so you don't get the company in trouble. There's a lot of processes that need to go into place, a lot of buy-in from different constituents that you work with, whether it's sales, marketing, finance, understanding the implications of decision making and how that can impact the company. I mean, I just learned so much more about how to lead and grow a company, but more importantly, run a company. That it was an incredible experience. And so, I think if I had to give advice to anyone in this journey, you can get your sales, experience, but you also need to get your inside experience in a marketing, sales ops role, training role, so you can really understand how to run a company and make good decisions, so that you can lead at a level where you can be successful, you can be safe at what you do, and also you can be impactful in the company. And I think finally in that role, I realized that diversity was a real issue. And that's when I really went on my quest to improve diversity and making sure that we got more diversity in the medical device business, because it was hardly anyone in the space.
When you say you learned that diversity was a real issue, was it simply a matter of you looking at who's being hired and saying, hey, there's not many here, or did somebody actually bring it to your attention?
So I looked at it that there was a lot of African Americans, people of color getting hired. The demographics of our customers were changing, and we weren't following the demographics of our customers. So customers were pointing it out to me. Just our own, I think, conscious, self being guiding such a beautiful company. We had great leaders there who, realized that we needed to take this on. And so we took it on. And I know for myself, gosh, I can't tell you what the exact number is, but I know I've brought in hundreds of people of color into the space, female, male, and not all of them make it, different issues. But when they do make it, they've gone on to be very successful, and they're leading their own teams now, and that stuff makes you feel really good.
Absolutely. Okay, Director of HR, what was next, and really, how did it come to you? Were you asked to step out into a different role?
Yeah, I was asked to do that. Yeah, I was asked to do that because, again, you get on this pathway, and your leadership team realizes that you have more to give than just bringing in sales dollars, managing at the field level. And my goal was to get on the national stage then and lead big teams of salespeople. And so I got that opportunity again with this vice president of sales opportunity that we mentioned a minute ago for the vascular interventions group at Guidant. And then Guidant got acquired by Abbott and Boston Scientific. And I ran over and led the Abbott integration and led basically two teams in peripheral and interventional cardiology. And then after 6 years, decided that I needed to move on, wanted to get on even a bigger stage. And now at Boston Scientific, president of cardiology, I actually lead all of the cardiology businesses. So it's electrophysiology, cardiac rhythm management, Watchman, which is a very cool device for patients that suffer from atrial fibrillation, our interventional cardiology business, and our structural heart business. So I have literally 5 organizations that I lead, well over 2,000 salespeople and leaders at the VP level and director level and RM level. And sales ops is part of my group. Sales training is part of my group. And also this leveraging really the healthcare inequities that we're doing with Close the Gap, which is this beautiful way of getting our people and people of color and women care.
I love it.
Yeah.
So in this position, you get to see a lot. I mean, you're at the forefront of technology and where things are going. You saw what COVID did with the sales force. You saw how challenging it was for the sales force to get access and for customers to be seen. Where do you, and then now things are cleaning up, things are getting somewhat back to whatever you want to call normal. Where do you think things are going moving forward? 5-10 years out, do we look to see an expanded sales force? Do we look to see a reduced sales force? And I don't mean specifically to your division or anything, but just in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it's all about technology, right? And if you're with a company that is bringing leading technology to the marketplace, you're always going to be needed in the hospital, and you're also going to be always going to be needed as a clinical consultant to medical sales professionals. So whether you're in pharma or whether you're in devices or capital equipment, if you're with a company that's doing that, then you're always going to be needed. I am great friends with a lot of physicians and a lot of administrators, and they value what we bring to the table, and they know that we help out with patient care. And so I don't ever see that going away. And I challenge people to think about it differently. When COVID hit, I was wondering, could we do some of this stuff remote? Could I have a camera sitting at the bedside, working with physicians, and do it remote, where I could put a team in a room and just have them consult? Yeah, you probably could, but it is not going to ever be perfect. And people like that personal touch. And now that things have opened back up, for my salespeople, they are back in 100% engaged, big time. But I do believe technology down the road could help us with some of the things where I call non-revenue generating activity. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. As an example, if you are in the pacemaker world, you get called to go to an ER and check a patient. Can you do that remotely? Right? Are there technologies that would allow you to do that remotely? And I think yes. But in terms of us being there, working with physicians, working with clinicians, working with nurse practitioners, bringing our knowledge on our technology, it's not going away. I don't see it.
Okay. Okay. Let's take it to, you speaking to the audience out here on what they should be considering when thinking about this industry. We'll start with that audience, just those that want to get into the industry. Earlier we talked about your pathway and how your pathway was pretty nuanced because it was unique to you. You had a lot of opportunities that you really took advantage of and stepped in front of. And today there's much more of a cookie cutter approach because there's just pathways. And we even talked about it, what we do here within our organization and helping professionals get positions, all the different things that are out there. Let's talk to our audience. What would you say the biggest piece of advice you'd give to people that want to get into the industry? What should they really be thinking about before they take it on?
Yeah. I think, the first thing is you need to understand what you're getting yourself into in the medical device space, pharma space, big iron. It's a very technical field. So if you like technical things, then this could be a place for you. So maybe doing some self-reflection on what you like and how you learn and what you like to learn is important. Then I think that the next thing is find someone who's doing it already. And when I was coming up, that was few and far between. Now there's networks you can join. This National Sales Network is a great way of getting into understanding what we do. Your organization, Evolve, is a great way of getting into understanding what we do with medical sales. And then a lot of the companies now have programs. We have one called Boost, where we actually have people who are non-traditional salespeople, people outside the industry. We introduce them to leaders in our company. We hold little virtual engagements, and people who we think can make the transition into the space, we get them into the space. I always love people who come from the liquor industry. They actually have one of the greatest training programs in terms of developing sales professionals. And we actually hire a lot of people from the liquor sales environment. The B2B environment is another one that we hire people from to get into this device business. Nowadays, Google and other places they have healthcare divisions. So if you come and you like IT and you go to that particular field first, and then you want to come over to the healthcare side of IT, that's a big opportunity, an opportunity to get into the medical device space. So there's so many different ways. I just think you need to learn it, and you need to research, and you need to find people who are doing this. And then you need to make sure that you are a person that want to learn that way, and you can handle the technical rigor of teaching yourself how to be a part of something like that, and then go for it and do your job and learn and hustle. It's all about hustle. This is not an easy space. As a matter of fact, in this space, I think another piece of it is it's 24/7. You do call, particularly in the pacemaker side of the business. You're on call on the weekends, so it's a tough space to be in terms of time, managing your family, having a balanced life. But you can have a balanced life. I'm not saying you can't. It's just that you need to understand what you're getting yourself into.
On that note, let's speak specifically to the cardiology space. how does the cardiology space differ from spine or OBGYN or ENT or endoscopy? How does, what's specific to cardiology that people should really understand before they look for opportunities within it?
Yeah, I love all those spaces, right? They're all great spaces, and I think they bring a different level of accountability. You all, whenever you're in any of those spaces, you have to be clinically competent. And you have to know your stuff. What's different probably about orthopedics and cardiology in particular is that a patient can have a bad situation anytime. These procedures are oftentimes not elective. A lot of them are elective, but when you're on call, you have to leave the dinner table, you have to leave grandma's birthday party, you got to sometimes drive two cars to go out with your spouse. So the accountability is pretty huge in the cardiology space. Not all of the divisions have that level of accountability, but you still need to be aware that it's a little bit different. And when you show up in the cardiac cath lab as a consultant for the company, as a sales rep for the company, you have to be really clinically tight. And the hospital is leaning on you. And they do that for orthopedics. They do that for endoscopy. They do that for women's health, men's health, all the different things. You have to be clinically competent and tight in order to really thrive in this space.
Got it. Got it. Let's talk for a second about the different leadership positions, the difference in the leadership positions you've had. There's first line leadership, there's second line leadership, there's organizational leadership. Yeah. How, the best way I guess I can ask it is, what have you learned as you kind of stepped into a bigger role? What themes have you seen? Talk to us a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between all three of those, kind of first line, middle management, and then senior management. And when I became a first line manager at the regional level or district level, however your nomenclature is, it's a huge responsibility because you are actually impacting not only the sales reps or the clinicals or the people on your team, and oftentimes that's 12 to 10 people. You're impacting their lives, their families' lives, right? They are relying on you to give them coaching and development on how to do the job, but also how to thrive in the role and make a difference. The one thing about selling, it's pretty black and white. You either do it well or you don't. You either make the numbers or you don't. It's the only job that I know of where you can give yourself a raise, because if you do a better job, you sell more and you make more money. So it's an amazing career path to be on. But as a frontline manager, you're actually teaching people and you're helping them develop and grow. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, is this person going to be a lifetime salesperson? Does this person even have the skills to be effective as a sales rep? Or is this my next regional manager that's going to go up and lead a team? Or is this person better in marketing? Should they take a chance and go inside in marketing? Or is this person so analytical that they would probably do better in a sales ops role or a finance role? So you are really the arbiter of really, understanding where people, where they lie in terms of their skill set, and then making sure they go into those different roles. The challenge with it is, if you don't take that seriously, you don't appreciate that, or you don't know how to do it, you could find yourself with a poor team, underperformance, and then people leaving the industry saying, I don't like this, or people in the wrong jobs, which is, very detrimental. And then subsequently they can't feed their families, et cetera. So it is a very, 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 in my mind, accountable position, frontline. Then when you get to middle management, the integrity piece, high ethics, understanding decision-making, making sure that you treat people fairly, understand that you are not a biased person, and you see, the whole picture on how the organization is running and how you can impact people and where people should fit into the organization, and having that, that big integrity and high ethical moral standard to lead at that level, because you will find that you will get challenged. You will be asked to do things. You will, people take shortcuts. People, want to win so bad. You as a middle manager, you have to be really keen on that and make the right decision. And if you make the wrong decision, it could impact not only your company, but also the employees that that you lead, which is a huge issue. And then when you get to senior level, wow, a ton of accountability. Decision making is everything. Making sure that you have your goals are aligned with the company. Understanding what is important to leadership, how you want to be perceived as an outward facing person for the company. So when I'm speaking to you today, I'm speaking on behalf of Boston Scientific, right? And it's important that I realize that. It's important that we do what we do is say the right things, do the right things, but more important, live those values every day. And you shouldn't be a different person than what comes out of your mouth. Absolutely. You should be that person, and you should live your values that way. And as a senior leader, you're impacting all these people in the company. And like I said, well over 2,000 employees that report directly to me. I have to show up again with that winning spirit, that inclusive spirit, understanding what D&I means, understanding what inclusiveness means, being fair, being ethical, and having really a high integrity.
Wow. Well, that was well said. I think you answered every single question there. Just to switch gears a little bit, and then we're going to bring this to a close pretty quickly. So as much as you can share, what's one of the technologies that we can all get really excited about in the cardiology space right now?
Yeah. So I love this question because there's a bunch of things that I could rattle off, but you asked me one. And I would say that I'm going to answer the question. Cardiology in a whole is booming, and it's a great space to be in. So figure out how to get in it. Two, in particular to this disease state called atrial fibrillation. And atrial fibrillation is unfortunately something that most of us will get if we live long enough. It's kind of a degeneration of the heart that happens with age. So a lot of patients have this, and we have technology now where we can go in and put devices in the left atrial appendage to block clots from going up and causing strokes, which is a booming industry and booming field. And we have ways to go in and use ablative technology to kind of burn these pathways that are causing the heart to be irregular. And both of those are booming and growing. And that's going to be really a huge field in cardiology moving forward.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sam, this has been wonderful. We're going to have a last thing here. It's called our lightning round. And we're going to ask you, or I'm going to ask you 4 questions. You have just around 10 seconds to answer. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Great.
Sam, what is the best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Oh my gosh. Best book that I've read in the last 6 months. Gosh, man. You caught me off guard on that one. You know what? It's interesting. I'm gonna have to come back to you on that one.
Now that is a first.
I can't. You got me on that. You know what's interesting? All right. So maybe I should answer this way.
All right.
I read a lot of articles and a lot of short stories about success and impact in the industry, and I read a lot of stuff that's more technical related to my field.
Okay.
And so I guess I have to answer the question that way.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's work with that. What's I've never asked this question before, but now you put me on the spot. What's the most memorable article you've read in the last 6 months?
Yeah, the most memorable article I read in the last 6 months was an article about the millenniums and what we have in terms of the job environment that we need to create for the way that the next group of young people are graduating from school and graduating and getting to businesses, and how they want employers to create an environment. And the article was about basically the fact that to come into an organization and sit there for years waiting for opportunities to get promotions, opportunities to get the next job, even getting a raise, that is not an opportunity that people want to take anymore. They want to be promoted quickly. They want to learn fast. They want to get a raise. They want to go to the next thing. And we're going to see, and we're already seeing this, particularly in my role, we're going to see people job hopping. And by the time they're in their really 15th year of working, they will already have about 8 to 10 jobs or eight
So
to 10 different companies.
now we're getting a little bit off track here, but this
Yep.
is actually really interesting. So what do you think about that? I mean, you've seen what it looks like for someone to get into Boston Scientific and perform well enough to get into the next stages of their career. What do you think about the way this new generation is coming in and what they expect? What do you say to all that?
Yeah, I say it's different. And I say we have to adapt. And I say we have to create strategies to make sure that we can hold on to our talent. And I think we have to be a little bit more forgiving in terms of promoting our talent and making sure that they get new opportunities in their career pathway. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. And you don't have to be an expert to get the next job. And that's the way that I kind of grew up. You had to be absolutely expert at this to move to this, to this, to that. And I would say that having an employee get different experiences will make them more well-rounded, and they can eventually be an expert in something. But I think we're going to have to adapt. And if you don't adapt, then you're going to have a lot of turnover in your organization. And I think that's very frightening. But also, I think it's, if you do it well, it's a competitive advantage. If you don't do it well, then you're going to have people rotating in and out your organization, and you're never going to build those relationships with those key physicians, those key stakeholders that really make decisions on whose product they use or where they want to buy from and what particular company they want to buy from. So this is I think right now, one of the hottest topics that everyone, not just medical sales, all employers should be thinking about.
Now, when you think of tackling this, are you looking at, more rotations where people can kind of
Yep.
just get just
Yep.
different types of
Rotate, do
experience?
this job for 6 months to a year and a half. You don't have to be in the job 3 to 5 years. You don't have to be like, you know, your father maybe, my father had to, go 20 years before they get to be the supervisor
Right.
or whatever. I think that, people are ready to learn differently. They learn fast. I think people are bored, bored easily, and they have so many resources to make sure that they do exercise entrepreneurial learning. I mean, all the stuff that is related to anything in the medical, you can look on the internet and make yourself very smart at it and understand very quickly the technical nuances and opportunities that exist. So I think we need to move faster.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well said. One thing I didn't ask you about that I'm going to just pause to ask you about right now is you've had so much success throughout your career. Uh,
Mhm.
Talk to us about family. How has family played into your entire journey?
Yeah. I would say that the family one really challenged me really early on in life, because when you are trying to make your way, particularly in the time that I was trying to make my way, um, I didn't have a lot of support, and quite frankly, there wasn't a lot of people doing what I was doing, and so my family really didn't understand what it meant for me to be on call, didn't understand why I was gone and missing, why I woke up at 5 o'clock some mornings to drive from Baltimore to Charlottesville to do a case early, or why I was at home because I had physician dinners, or why I wasn't home because I was at a symposium for the weekend, with my physicians, working with them at these different conferences. And so my first marriage wasn't successful. I had two boys, two very young boys, but that was just a difficult time. But I learned a lot, from that. And I learned as much as I was focused on my opportunities, I was probably less focused on how to be a husband or a dad. So the second time I got it, learned it, and I was better at it. And I would say that I'm, in a 15-year marriage now, and I know how to balance. So balancing life and work is tough. Balancing life and work, family is tough. Balancing life, work, family, and a medical device career can be very challenging. And I think you just have to be very conscious of it. I think you have a great communication with your partner and your family to let them know why you're doing this and you're doing it for them. And then you have to have, the ability to say no and carve out time for the people you love. Otherwise, this career can definitely take you down a pathway where you just do it all the time.
Man, appreciate the transparency there. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that is not heard often enough, and I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Lightning round.
we'll jump back into the questions. All right, so what movie or TV show have you? What is the best movie or TV show you've seen in the last 6 months?
Best movie too. All right. So my wife and I love all these little TV series that come on, and I love Your Honor.
Never even heard of it. What is
Yep.
that about? What's that?
It's a very interesting TV series, and I can't remember the actor's name because I can't remember names very well. Believe it or not, I have to really practice at that. That's a whole other thing we can talk about. But bottom line is, he was a judge, and his son made a mistake and
Oh, I
killed
do know this one.
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
one. Oh
That's
yeah.
a good one.
Oh
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think it's on the second or third series, so I'm really enjoying it right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Best meal you've had in the last 6 months.
Of course, my wife's food last night. That was fantastic.
All married individuals have to say that. It's just
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
it. But
go.
I love we do go out to restaurants, and we
Okay.
love
Is there a
actually
restaurant
I
that's kind
had
of
huh?
is there a restaurant that stuck out, a meal at a certain restaurant that stuck out?
Actually, last on Friday night, we went out with my senior vice president of HR, who was in town, and we went to a place called Lamar at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, and it was Peruvian food, and it was outstanding.
Ooh.
So yeah, I love all different types of foods.
Where is this? Lamar where?
It's in the Oriental Hotel, Mandarin Oriental Hotel in Miami.
Okay. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
in Brooklyn. Yeah, got to check
That's
it
gonna be
out.
noted. All right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
last question, best experience you've had in the last 6 months.
So, life is interesting. You have your family, you have your work life, and then you have your professional life. And my wife and I decided during COVID to go back and get our MBAs. And so we went to University of Maryland Global Campus. Why did I choose that? I'm from Maryland. It was a way to do it with all my travel and commitment, where 95%, 90% of it was online. And during that time in COVID, we could actually dedicate the time to it. And so we did that and completed that in 3.5 years, and we graduated in December together on stage.
Wow.
My wife and I, and it was just
Hey,
amazing
congratulations, man.
experience.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
I gotta ask,
yeah.
at this level, this stage in your career,
Yeah.
why the MBA?
So that's a great question. I am a what I call a lifetime learner, and this entrepreneurial learning that we speak about or I talk about, it's about reading articles, books, whatever you want to do to make yourself better and be better at your field. So very committed to that, and I wanted to be a better leader, particularly as it relates to finance. I felt like finance was one of the areas that I could do better at. And so in this particular program, we spent a lot of time on that, and we got to actually build a company from scratch, where you were, everything. You were R&D, you were, supply chain, you were, finance, you were HR, you were everything. And I wanted to have that experience. And some of my colleagues had gone through MBA programs, whether at Kellogg, wherever you go. It's all great experiences because you're going to be, doing stuff and learning stuff that you probably haven't done. So I wanted to do that. And also I'm preparing for really after medical device sales, right? I want to be on boards. I want to be of value. I know I have the experience in the space, but I wanted to cap it off with a master's in business to validate, the fact that I'm committed to being a business leader. And so that's another reason why I did it. And so my expectation is once I do retire from this leadership position at Boston Scientific, I will help companies get to the level where they want to be. And that's my goal to be on boards. And also, I want to do public speaking. I want to do training and development. I want to do motivational speaking. I think my story is unique. It's not a traditional story. And I think at the end of the day, your story can help someone. There's someone out there struggling with the same things you struggled with. There's someone doubting themselves. There was a long time where when I didn't have my degree, I was wondering, did I belong in this role? Because you just get the stigma, you have to have a degree. Yeah, I think you need to be able to learn. I think you need to be able to comprehend. And I think you need to have the ability to have a tremendous work ethic. Well, you can learn those things different ways. I think for me, validating that again with the MBA was very important. But more importantly, I've been a lifetime learner, and I'm preparing for the future.
Okay, one more question in that regard. Is the
Yep.
validation something that's self-imposed, or did somebody actually suggest that you do it for the career you want to have
Yeah.
after you wrap up medical sales?
Yeah. So both. So one of my mentors and colleagues who should be doing the podcast next, her name is Camille
Can't wait.
King. She is fantastic leader. She is global D&I leader for us, human resources, just fantastic leader. She just said, Sam, you need to do this. I think after you finish with this role at Boston Scientific, you want to get on a pathway where you're valued in different ways, and I think an MBA would help you with that. And so she advised me to do it, and then I promised my dad that I would do it, and I wasn't going to give up on it. It took me a while, and I want to send this message to everybody. I'm 58 years old. You can still learn. Don't let age be an excuse. Don't let time be an excuse. Don't let where I am in the situation be an excuse. Get it done, figure it out, work your butt off, and do the job. Period.
And on that note, we're going to call it. Sam, this was a fantastic interview. Thank you for spending time with us today. And we can't wait to see the wonderful things that are coming from you in the future.
Thank you, Samuel. Great first name, by the way.
And that was Sam Conaway. I just love that story. He is the embodiment of being exactly what you preach. He talks about it, work ethic, passion, and he terms it entrepreneurial learning, but I like to say it as taking advantage of the resources around you and making good on them so you can move forward. That's something to admire, and it's something to really remember. I think it's easy to say we'll do those things when the time calls for it, right? You've heard it before. You got to have a strong work ethic, make sure you're passionate about what you do, make sure you're taking advantage of any opportunity in front of you or the resources. We've heard all those things before, but I think when you're really in the midst of a challenge, a true challenge, that you don't even know how to solve, that's when words like this and stories like this should truly be remembered, because they remind you that if you take stock and you ask yourself in the midst of whatever challenge, and in fact, all of you listening right now, you might be in a challenge. For those of you that want to break into the industry, your challenge is, maybe it's getting that interview, or maybe it's getting to the offer stage, and you just keep going through all these interviews and you can't make it past that second or third round. For those of you that are medical sales professionals, maybe it's hitting your numbers at the end of the quarter. For those of you that are leading the way, maybe it's getting your team to attain those numbers that you need to hit. Whatever the challenge is right now, I think it's fair to remember this story and to think to yourself, okay, is my work ethic where it's supposed to be? That's the first self-check. Is my heart really in this? Like, do I actually want to attain whatever it is I'm saying I want to attain here? That's the second self-check. And lastly, am I taking advantage of the resources around me? For those of you who want to break in, we literally talk about a resource every single week here at Evolve Success with our programs. Are you taking advantage? And I'm not just saying this because it's our program, but I'm being honest here. Are you taking advantage? And if it's not our program, is it something else that you're taking advantage of to get to where you want to be? For those of you that are medical sales professionals, I'll ask you the same thing. Are you taking advantage? And for those of you leading the way, you already know this, but again, don't we all? Are you taking advantage? I really do love stories like this, and I love the fact that Sam was able to spend some time with us today. So all of you out there, play this again if need be. When you're having that challenging moment, remember this story. And we do our best to bring you guests that are innovative, they're trailblazing, they're pioneering new ways in the med tech space. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.